If you are struggling with inflammation, it might be something that you're eating. Hi, my name is Dr. Olivia Joseph. I hold a bachelor's degree in human biology, a doctorate in chiropractic. I'm board certified in acupuncture and Chinese medicine, and I also hold a diplomate in clinical nutrition from the American Institute of Integrative Medicine. So, long story short, I have been using food as medicine in my clinical practice and even in myself to deal with inflammation for over 16 years. So I want to expose you to some of the most inflammatory foods. Now, I know some of you have tried to cut a certain food out of your diet, and maybe you saw results, maybe you didn't. A lot of why people don't see results is they only cut one thing out at a time instead of the right combination of things. That's what we're here to talk about. Food number one, wheat. Wheat is probably the most inflammatory food that exists. Now, before you start throwing stones at me or hating me, please understand the wheat we eat right now is not the same wheat our ancestors ate. And it's not even the same wheat that you were eating 10 and 20 years ago. It has been manipulated so many times and treated with so many chemicals. That's one of the reasons it's so inflammatory and so hard to digest. So what makes wheat inflammatory is it's very high in omega-6 fatty acids. And omega-6 fatty acids, when they're not properly portioned with omega-3 fatty acids, can cause inflammation. And we have science and research that supports this and shows that this is a fact. This is why so many people cut wheat out of their diet and notice their inflammation go down. Maybe their energy levels increase. For me, when I eat wheat, I feel more bloated, I feel more swollen, but the worst thing for me is I just feel tired. My brain just feels foggy. So try cutting wheat out because it's so high in omega-6 fatty acids, and the average American diet or the standard American diet, which we call the SAD diet because it's pretty sad, is so high in omega-6s and it's so out of balance with omega-3s, which are anti-inflammatory naturally. So food number two, dairy. Again, before you throw stones, here's why dairy is problematic. So not only are gluten and dairy the top two most common allergens when it comes to food sensitivities, dairy is very, very acidic. So anything that is acidic and mucus producing is going to make you more inflamed. So completely removing dairy is a great idea along with wheat at the same time if you suffer with high levels of inflammation. And then you can reintroduce those things one food at a time back if you choose to. I recommend you stay off wheat because the reaction when you eat wheat can be very delayed. What that means, it can silently be causing inflammation in you over a 3-week period. So wheat's one of those foods where it's really hard to determine if it's causing inflammation or not, because sometimes you eat it, it causes a problem, sometimes you eat it and it doesn't. But really it's because that it's such a delayed response, the inflammation that wheat causes. Versus dairy, some people immediately feel mucousy or congested or achy or their bowels slow down because it's so highly acidic. So instead of having highly acidic foods, I'm going to talk to you about some more alkaline foods that help to quench some of that inflammation naturally in just a moment. But I want to bring to your attention the third most common inflammatory food, and it's sugar. And sugar isn't just inflammatory. Sugar is also extremely addictive. As a matter of fact, 7 times more addictive than cocaine. So when people tell me I'm addicted to sugar, I say, I know, I completely understand. And that's one of the reasons we have to completely pull sugar out of the diet, because if you eat it, you will crave it. Now, I'm not talking about fruits. Fruit sugar is not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about carbohydrates. I'm talking about sugar. I'm not talking about the sugar that's in a sweet potato. I'm not talking about the sugar that is in a piece of fruit that's in season. I am talking about added sugar in any type. And one of the most toxic things we ever did was we allowed high fructose corn syrup into our food systems. And what that did was it led to so much insulin resistance. And since that has been allowed in our food system, not only is diabetes skyrocketed, but so has obesity in a younger and a younger and a younger demographic. So we know that too much sugar, too much unhealthy sugar, fake sugar, artificial sweeteners, even the sugar-free ones still cause you to crave sugar and they still create a glucose response. What I'm talking about is added sugar. And you may even need to be careful if you're highly inflamed and you are addicted to sugar to, in the beginning stages, pull out things like honey and maple syrup, molasses. I get that question a lot. Is it okay to have those things? Is it okay to have stevia? Is it okay to have xylitol? Those things are naturally found in nature, but when you crave sugar, when you overeat, when your body is so inflamed, I recommend you detox completely, and then you can reintroduce some of those healthy sugars. And if you do want something sweet, eat a piece of fruit, eat half a sweet potato, because when you have a clean palate, those foods taste amazing, especially when they're locally grown and in season. When you have a poisoned palate, those foods don't taste good to you. So another food that is not inflammatory, that is anti-inflammatory, that I recommend you increase in your diet are greens. Greens, greens, greens. And if you hate your greens, there are some great green drinks out there that are these dehydrated, organic greens that help alkalize your system. So when you do things to make your body more alkaline, such as greens, it's going to help reverse some of the effects of inflammation. When you do things that are not acidic, like greens, it's going to help reduce inflammation. So is incorporating omega-3s, not just in your diet with wild caught, not farm raised, wild caught salmon, with avocados, coconut oil. So foods that are rich in omega-3s help balance that omega-3 to omega-6 ratio. And when those ratios are more balanced, you will see an improvement in inflammation. There are even some inflammatory markers that I see really, really high, like C-reactive protein, which increases your risk for cardiovascular disease, which makes you store fat in your belly, which makes your aches and pains so much worse and makes it hard for you to lose weight. I have seen C-reactive protein come down with omega-3s in combination with a gluten, dairy-free, refined sugar-free diet, and even incorporating some amazing anti-inflammatory herbs like turmeric, ginger, boswellia. But we're here today not to talk about supplements, to talk about dietary and lifestyle tips that can really make a difference. So I challenge you, try. Don't just cut one food out at a time. Cut the right things out. Give it at least 2 weeks. If you can hang in there for 3 to 4, I'd prefer that. But listen, if you are seeing results in as little as 2 weeks, it's easy to stay motivated and to keep making positive improvements and changes, right? Would you all agree? When you feel better, when you have more energy, less aches and pains, you don't feel bloated and swollen, when your brain is firing and sharp as a tack, you're gonna do good things with that energy. I know that. So try cutting out those most inflammatory foods. Try incorporating some healthy fats, omega-3s, more vegetables, so that you can see results, become less inflamed, get well, and stay well naturally. So I hope some of those tips helped you. Thanks.